Okay. So let's call this meeting to order, the Finance Subcommittee meeting of June 16, 2025.
Roll call. Chairperson Bahu,
Here,
Mr. Conway, Ms. Martin.
Here.
Two present, one absent.
great. And the first item would be to review the budget and the allocation funds of this current school year as we come to the end of the year. We'd like to make sure that everything's sort of moving in the right direction and we will be spending what we need to satisfy our full year budget.
Perfect,
Thanks.
thanks.
Turn the meeting over to you, Mr.
Thank-
Vinta.
Thank you for that, Mr. Bahu. So yes, so we are on our way to wrapping up the year successfully. We are, as you're aware, collecting invoices, making payments. Now's the time when, we reach out to those vendors and ensure that they're inputting their invoices on time. We want to make sure we receive them. We're closing out, so we closed out purchase orders. We had our own internal deadlines for preparing for the end of the year, so we gave all of our sites, all of our cost center managers notice, hey, listen. Funds transfer was in February, rough purchasing deadline was in April for the operating budget. Purchasing deadline for grants was at the end of May, and so now we're in the process of wrapping up. So we're on our way. I do have a quarterly report, to Q3 report that I'll present to you in July, if we have a meeting in July, or at the, if is so desired by the school committee, I can offer it at the end of June. If we've got a meeting on the 30th, I could do it then. If not, I can offer it in July, or I can offer Q3 and Q4 at the same time at a later date, as the school committee wishes. So that's where we're at right now.
Any questions?
So where, as you're kind of going through this wrap-up process, are you feeling this is going more smoothly, less smoothly, as smoothly as last year?
Thank you for that. So this is my first go round.
Oh, it is, okay.
Word here in Lowell, our first closing, but word is that it's, people appreciated the deadline dates that we set and we broadcast and we made ourselves very available with office hours and site meetings. So we did 2 check-ins, I'm pleased to report this year, with all 28 sites. Meaning, in the fall, we checked in with their budget workbooks and staffing allocations, answered their questions, looked at their purchase orders, and we did the same thing in the spring timeframe. So this preceded or was around the time we were opening up the FY26 workbooks. So we also had an opportunity to answer their questions then. So there's been a lot of communication, and so it's been relayed to me that people felt they were very clear on deadline dates and things went smooth.
So everything's being spent on properly, being transferred properly, and ultimately we will use our fiscal 2024-25 budget.
So we're working on refining it right now. I'd like to say we're headed in the right direction. So we'll find out as we close out the year now. These next few weeks are before we get the invoices and make sure POs are closed out, and then see what we cover the negatives. So wherever there was overspend or underspend, at the last school committee meeting, we did the transfers, that kind of cleanup. So that kind of cleanup and refinement will go on next couple of weeks.
And something that's been a thorn in our side for a while have been bad bills. So where are we on those? Are we comfortable that people are invoicing us properly so that they can be paid in this fiscal year rather than next fiscal year? Are they billing us for this current year's services, or are they billing us for other services that were done years preceding?
Right, so as you're aware, so thank you for the question. As you're aware, we've worked very hard to clean up bad bills, presented both here at school committee and then again to city council. So I'm hoping that we've reduced them to what is a minimum. Whatever it is, we're going to be better than we were last year. That's a virtual certainty based on the level of communication that we've had with our sites, the training that we've offered administrative assistants, the work that we've done with our cost center managers. We will most certainly be better than we were last year. The uncontrollable is vendors who try and proceed with services without a contract or a PO in place. So that continues to be a challenge, but we will work to ensure that we've got that to a minimum. What we discovered this year is that we are well within the industry standard. So the industry standard is bad bills may amount for 0 to 2% of your overall budget. we were well within that range, and we're gonna be as close as we can get to zero. So this summer will be interesting. Now we'll flush out the remaining invoices and close all the POs and see if any big services. Yeah, thank you for that. And there was, so I was pleased that school committee felt that it was appropriate to restore a small dollar amount in that bad bills line. And so I think that because that's been an issue for so many years, we maybe we can't expect that it's gonna get cleaned up straight away in one, but we're gonna do our best to get there.
Okay, Ms. Martin, do you have a question?
Can I ask, do we have, and I forgive the phrasing, but do we have repeat offenders of, kind of vendors that we're using that consistently we're chasing for this information?
So I'll certainly find out right now. This time around, I'll find out who's, and those are the kind of vendors that we will make clear with, that if they wish our relationship to continue, then they'll have to come in line with our process here. Those will be made clear. On bad bills, I am pleased to report to you that we just closed an investigation, and it was for the Follett Aspen OLRR item. And so they were unable to substantiate the billing. And so we have saved $150,000. So there was $150,000 claim for services rendered against the district. We investigated. We've made clear what our parameters were. They were unable to substantiate. And so we have closed that investigation. And so pleased to say we did away with $150,000 worth of potentially bad.
Great news.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No, not for me.
Okay, moving on, item 2, the 2025, 2026 budget. We just voted on it. We seem to have passed it. We're still sort of up in the air on whether we will be receiving the funds from the city of Lowell, the additional $2 million. So if you could maybe share some information with us about the budget.
Great. So on the $2 million front, so thanks for asking that question. So I pursued that. I actually called the city CFO today. So Connor Baldwin, we exchanged emails. We didn't have the chance to talk. In our last conversation, in watching the city council meeting, they placed the $2 million in the city manager's suspense account. So they kind of placed it on hold. It was voted to direct it towards the school. The idea of my conversation today was to affirm when they're going to take that vote to move it from that suspense account that they placed it in to the school district. And so so I don't have any news for you today, but we're pursuing that. So I communicated both via phone and email. So I'll find out when it's going to be placed on the next city council meeting. So I expect it to be done, if not this month, then at their first meeting in the following month. And as you're aware, at the last school committee meeting, we had the opportunity to review the tiered restoration plan. The school committee voted to approve that. So when we receive the $2 million, I'm assuming that we'll be able to work to restore positions. So I am going to communicate out to our own school district administrators, our cross center managers, just to give them an update so that they won't be wondering about this question that you're asking right now. They'll have an idea, but I'll relay the same information to them that I'm giving to you right now.
So we're hoping for an update by first week of July,
I'm
or
hoping for an update in the next 48 hours.
Okay.
The next 24 to 48 hours, as soon as I get a return call or return communication from city CFO.
okay, great. Because it seemed like, there was some layoffs in that whole,
That's correct.
if we did not receive that, so it'd be nice for people to have that comfort.
That's correct. So if it's not going to be voted on this month, then people may well be finishing on the 30th of June. And then we'll have to work to re-engage them post that, rehire or re-employ. We want them also to be prepared. So we're going to give them the same communication. I just want to be sure to give it to you first.
Any questions?
Could I had some kind of global kind of questions on the
Sure.
budget, and I don't know, just to kind of make some comparisons. So the first budget that was presented to us, to the committee, what was the total for that?
The first one was 271. 489, 114.
So then we went through our whole process and we were putting things in suspense and abeyance and all that.
Right.
So when we first voted to approve it, what was that total? After the like two or three budget hearings they blend together.
Oh, so I have to, so I'm in the same position you are.
Yeah,
I'd have to go back to the minutes to review like what the.
because like we had approved it, but then it wasn't the right amount and then they came back with another amount.
That's correct. I don't have the school committee meeting minutes in front of me. I'd have to refer.
Mira's just looking forward to it. So now it's a race. This is fun.
I just want to see if I've got this. I think this is the original proposed budget. I have it in mind. I've started to archive those copies. We have them moved to the file. Yeah, so 271,489,114 was our budget number. Then we voted on an amount that was higher. No, Mary, I believe was 272, no, some odd dollars.
Yeah. I'll have it in a minute.
So that was before we got the $4 million announcement. That was before. Or did we get that midway?
So
Just
the-
trying to put things in a timeline.
Yeah, we made the correction, so we had to make a correction to adjust it to the 271.
Okay, so that represented
Then we
the,
got notice that there would be an additional 2 million. And so this all unfolded very quickly.
Right.
So on the few days, on the Monday or Tuesday of that week, we then got word that city was trying to direct 2 million our way. And we had to present the new proposed budget to you by Friday. So by Friday, we were trying to get it out to you in terms of, pack it out to you. And the city council didn't meet until the following 2 days. So this information to you preceded their meeting. And then we didn't meet until Wednesday. So we agreed and the mayor agreed, city manager were aware, city CFO were aware that we were putting a conditional budget, as you were, a budget that was contingent on their approval of them sending the 2 million back to us. So our budget number is now $2 million higher than this. The latest budget that was approved was 273,489,114.
No,
Was that's our last, you're talking about the in-between budget?
the one in between was 272,
That's correct.
853,
Okay.
989.
Yeah, I'm talking about the last.
Okay, I apologize.
That's,
okay, so then we had the 272, right?
Mhm.
And then we got word on the additional 2 million.
so then we made a correction to that budget to bring it down to the right budget number, which was 271. Then we got word that we would get the 2 million. Or
Brought us to
they were directing,
273.
we were trying to direct it our way.
So as we stand right now, if the 2 million does come as we are, obviously hoping it will, we'd be looking at the 273, 853, 989.
273,489,114. 273,489,114.
Which is exactly $2 million over the years.
That's the current number.
Which is exactly $2 million over the
That's
years.
correct, yes. So this is the budget that will now be, I've been advised by the superintendent to go ahead and post the most recent, just so that people
Yeah,
are able to
exactly,
follow.
exactly.
So this week, we're aiming to put that, in the coming days, we're aiming to put that budget up on the website, post it on the website, so that it's the latest version.
And this one includes everything from suspense is counted in this.
That's correct.
What about abeyance?
That's correct.
Okay, so-
Everything's been restored.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good, no, perfect. Because that meeting was sort of a little busy.
Yeah, exactly. It's a
And,
lot. We've gone up and down and up and down. so-
Right, things kept moving. We're still, hopefully that the city will be kind enough to restore that $2 million so we can restore the positions. So that's great. Any other questions before we consider a motion to adjourn?
I just wanted to share with you, so I asked, Greg this evening, so just your indulgence for a few minutes, just to talk about his work on the school, technology survey. So Greg went out and did some, so in light of the school committee questions, I figured these were, things that you were interested in and wanted to know that had to do with one-to-one devices, number of staff devices, et cetera.
Thank you.
Greg went ahead and compiled,
Thank
some information, just to share with, just information to share.
So
I'll turn it over to Greg.
after the board meeting, I decided that I'd put it out there because whether, I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but ESSER funding and ECF funding was what funded a lot of technology for a lot of districts to help them get one-to-one during COVID. So the question came up, how do we sustain going one-to-one? I want to know what are other districts thinking as they're facing the same dilemma we are, that this funding has gone away, and how are they going to sustain it? So I decided to put out there with a series of questions of 40 districts replied back at the time when we put together this presentation. It's not 44 now, but it keeps updating as we speak. What I was able to find out is that when it comes to student device allocation, one-to-one programs, 92.7 districts are one-to-one. When I asked how many of you have one device for every child. So most districts provided one device per student. Their refresh cycle is on average, 61% of them have a 4 to 5 year refresh cycle. There's fewer districts that have longer time than that because these devices are $250 to $300 devices, and they don't make it much longer than that, especially when you get into middle school students. There are some that are doing it much shorter. I was surprised to see some people doing 1, 2, 3 year refresh cycles. I was like, wow, it's nice to have that kind of money, I guess. But device choice, most districts are using Chromebooks. 95.1% of them are using Chromebooks with students, and 83.3% of them plan to remain one-to-one. And there was another percentage of people who were unsure as of yet. I think they heard me say, what are you thinking about? And they're going to go back and ask their district as well as they're definitive that we're going to stay.
What percentages?
That are definite are 83.3%.
83%.
The reason to be one-to-one, our curriculum is becoming mostly digital, and I'll share with you in a few minutes some of the things that we're using in the district. MCAS testing is now digital. You have formative testing in the form of iReadiness district that we use to determine students' ability levels and adjust their learning according to where they need the most help. We have ISTE standards, the International Society for Technology and Education, that puts out standards of where all kids should be in the use of technology and learning. To help keep us competitive, we should be getting our teachers to be aware of those ISTE standards and to be able to teach to them. And without students having devices, that becomes harder to do. Students are able to, being one-to-one, students are able to stay current and competitive. So when you look at students in other districts, take my own children, for example, they've had access all their lives to multiple devices, and it's really helped them in being successful. My daughter was valedictorian, my son was third in his class. I equate some of that to being the availability to have information available to them at any given time. And it makes it hard if students don't have one-to-one, and they're going home and maybe not having a device at home to compete with the child like mine. Data from technology helps to drive instruction in individualized learning. So when you have these devices using technology, you're gaining data constantly, and that helps to develop that information for a teacher to plan their learning accordingly to meet those children where they're at. If you look at the next slide, curriculum that requires access to technology, some examples, Lowell High School's just taken on a new curriculum this year that is mostly digital. So I know the ninth grade is very concerned with having a device that the students get in because some of the curriculum is purely digital, and how are they going to be able to teach without it? iReady testing, I mentioned that already, is formative testing. I mentioned MCAS testing, and ISTE standards are some of the things that I've talked about. To further go along with that, there should be another slide. Or is it after this one? Oh no, somehow it didn't get in.
It's okay.
Oh, it's right here. Here's additional software. So iReady, formative, BrainPop Junior, and BrainPop ELL are things we pay for. ST Math, Study Sync, Reveal, Flashlight 360, Language Live, Google Read and Write, EHL Central. We have robotics across the district in grades K to 12 that are using technology to power those robotics. Seesaw is a learning management system for the younger ages. We have physics, AP physics, sorry, the A was missing. Open SciEd, IXL, Vocabulary, Lexia, Google Classroom, and many more.
So I'm gonna I'm gonna interject just for a minute. Sorry to interrupt your flow. I'm not familiar with all of the programs up there, but I know for a fact that some of them are science, math, ELA. And you can see like things like Google Classroom that provide the opportunity for students and teachers to interact and work on the same document at the same time. So I'm able to write in my document and the teacher is able to get in there and correct and see it in real time, right? So those kinds of things are essential. Monitor student work and work collaboratively, cooperatively with students.
No, sorry, and there's many, when I say there's many more, there's a number of free resources that teachers use as well. So we use Clever as a single sign-on. I could pull that up if you want to see all of the apps and logins. Taking away one-to-one is going to severely hamper the way that teachers can teach, and now having to, figure that out and be troublesome. Staff technology access, when we talk about staff, that's another thing to think about in our one-to-one environment is all of our staff having devices. 95.1, nearly all districts provide devices to all staff. You can see that device preference, 46.3% of them are giving staff Chromebooks, and more, that number is growing as we speak. I've had in my listserv more districts saying, what are you doing? And districts say, I'm looking for using something called a Chromebook Plus. It's a Chromebook about the size of this device, which is what we give teachers. And it gives them access to additional features that a student would get in a regular Chromebook, such as touchscreen, fingerprint recognition, AI technology built in. So it is a selling point to get teachers on board with it. It is a savings for the district, even as little as $100 adds up when we talk about 3,000 devices, that you see substantial savings that way. So I'm recommending if we update devices that we look at that as an option. The refresh cycle for most staff devices, according to the survey, was 5 years. And so 56.1% of districts are refreshing the teacher devices in 5 years. That was the largest percent. So some key takeaways here. Chromebook is the dominant device used in school districts across the state. The 4 to 5 year refresh cycle is the dominant amount of time that's being used to refresh those devices. There are support challenges. There's a wide variety of IT staffing ratios. So that's another thing to look at, is this number of staff to devices. And then the Chrome is a preference for staff devices. It's Chromebook Plus or Windows that's being used.
So Greg, listen, thank you very much. We'll throw it open for any questions that you have on this.
Well, I guess, the only question I have, are we going to be able to sustain this one-to-one ratio with all of these refreshes for the 15,000 person school district that we have, including the how many thousand staff that we have as well? So, and I know we're purchasing $334,000 annually for 5 years, which are going to pick up about how many devices?
That would be about 3,000.
About 3,000.
A little more 3,000.
Right, so ultimately it's
And that's
about,
on a lease.
so at least, sure, but ultimately it's about 20% of what we need, as far as the refresh goes, correct?
Yep, so this is a approximation, so this is gonna change, that picture is gonna change, those numbers that you discussed, both in terms of devices and lease costs are gonna change. So first off, I have to thank you for being good stewards of the money. So you were very thoughtful about this item. You did pull it, I know you examined it, turned it over, came in and asked lots of questions, and so that's really being accountable to the public, and we should be, right? We should let them know, here are the purchases we're making, and here's why we're making them, here's what the rationale is. So honestly, I do thank you for that. I think it's important to bring it to light and expose it and let everybody see, there's no, there are no secrets here or anything. This is what we're doing and why we're doing it. So as far as a sustainable plan, I do want to commit to you, like the finance subcommittee, and to the school committee and to the general public, that so Greg and I have our work cut out for us going forward is just around this sustainable plan. So what can we come up with as we meet with students and staff and examine their needs? We need them to tell us exactly what they need and when they need it, right? And so view that as part of the work this year, along with the technology committee. There is a technology committee that we're gonna reactivate, and we're gonna examine that lease versus buy plan and come back to you with input from staff, students, administrators on what they need and when they need. And we're hoping that work will start this summer, and that'll shed some light on how best to go forward.
And I think that has it's a great direction to go, especially if you did not have a technology subcommittee that hasn't been meeting regularly. It would be nice to have that information so that we can share with the public on the costs that we are incurring to, stay on this one-to-one ratio. So, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you coming, Mr. Lamperis, to this meeting and sharing this information. It's great information to have, and I look forward to even more.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I would ask, and this may I'm sure it predates you, but it may even predate you, Greg. When did we fall off the cycle? Like we had an established 3-year rotation where you were replacing, I mean, at that point it was almost entirely staffing, staff and technology as opposed to the student, because that really exploded in obviously during COVID. But I mean, we had an established kind of rhythm to this where we would, doing replacements every year to, so it seems like we're trying to get back to that, but I just don't know when we stopped.
Connie, honestly, that predates me. I got here in
Yeah.
September of 2021, and all of student and staff devices were purchased almost all at the same time because of millions of dollars that came in
May
through
have blown that
COVID.
out of the water.
So I think, as I understand it, teachers had some MacBooks that were end of life, and they all got new MacBook Airs all at the same time. Students were never one-to-one,
Yeah.
understand?
Oh, yeah.
There were carts and stuff, so it did bring that in, and my job was cleaning that up to get us in a way that, so right away I said, let's develop a refresh cycle for students, because I want to get people used to the fact that this is what we're going to have to do once we have to start covering this cost. So right away, because ESSER money was coming in, I could go after that. I said, even though this device is only a year old, let's bring in another round next year because the money's there. So we're used to the fact that every year we're going to refresh, because the device is living through this. I did 8 years in Hampton, where 7 of that when we were one-to-one. And we did on a 3-year refresh cycle, and they made it 3 years. 4, I was like, it'd be a stretch, but I said 4 works here because we have more grades here than I had to cover up in Hampton and K-8. And it's working here. I wouldn't do much more than 4 or 5 years a loaner device, but those devices can't make it much longer.
Yeah, I mean, that's realistic,
Right.
optimistic, honestly. Okay. Yeah, okay.
And are there any grants available for the one-to-one and, in a gateway city? And I know 95% of school districts.
There's some
are-
potential, but then there's some things we have to kick in for some of those. We looked at a Verizon potential grant for middle school, but then there's training you have to commit to and things like that, that additional expenses for the district. So, and there's no guarantees on any of that as well. So, there's a few potentials in this market. There's not, everybody's kind of buying whatever they.
Sure, that's easy to understand. Well, anyway, thanks for this information. We look forward to hearing back from you in the, next number of months.
Anytime you need
Hear
that,
what
I'm
the-
happy to give you some more insight.
Yeah, to hear what other options are, all the options are, what the costs are really going to be on an annual basis with regularity.
It's sustainable. I did the same thing in Hampton. We moved teachers to Chromebooks. And I feared they would revolt. And after a year, they were like, oh, thank you for doing this. It made our lives a whole lot easier. So it was surprising to me because any change back 3 to 5 years, we're in I'm entering my 5th year now of us being here one-to-one. I think people are really adjusting to it. So you'll see that there may be we have to figure things out, but within a few years, people adjust. And I was surprised how quickly the adjustment to Chromebooks went for teachers within a year. People are loving having them. So that's just one of the ways we can save some money. And with student money, student devices, I'm looking at ways to save money on that, especially repair costs and things like that. So.
Terrific. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Yeah, let's entertain a motion to adjourn.
So entertained.
To adjourn by Ms. Mark, seconded by Mr. Bowden.